Welcome to the show. It's another episode of JT and Sam Chat Brand, where we talk about pretty much whatever we want to, but most things pertaining to brand, design, our work through Overline, and just, life as creatives. And we want to answer some of our own questions and develop some clear thinking about them. So a dialogue back and forth between us. And we also hope to teach other designers and also welcome you all into the conversation. And so bring your questions, please, shout out in the comments and ask questions that we can talk about in future episodes. So let's talk. Let's dish.
So I think today we should talk about client.
Yeah.
As they say, it takes two to tango. At the end of the day, we are in client services, and everything we do revolves around people who choose to work with us. So, just starting from the very beginning, tell us what's your working definition of a good client?
Yeah. Okay. So a definition of a good client, I think, is somebody placing a high value on design thinking, having a high level of polish, and at the same time, not having the time or the focus or the team or the manpower to be able to execute on it. Now, I think a secondary thing to that would be that most of the clients, if not all of them, are operating in some sort of digital space. It's tech companies, software companies, crypto, tech-enabled, tech-driven companies that are operating online through their website, through social media, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really just those three components of a high value and a high degree of love for good design and a high level of polish, while at the same time, the lack of time or manpower to execute and operating within the digital sphere.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I know that, kind of clients you're working with now are not the kind of clients you started working with. So talk about how you came to the place where those kind of clients are who you're looking for.
I think you want to create a flywheel of success, a flywheel of value creation, where every client that you're working with is a bridge to the next client and is an opportunity for you to learn and to refine and to get closer and closer in on a sweet spot where you can provide the most value and you can have the greatest impact. So the first mindset would just be to take a really, really long-term view. This isn't something that's just going to happen overnight. You're not going to go from 1, 2, 3 projects and then all of a sudden now you've got dream clients. It's a game of endurance. And as you get better, your clients will get better. There's that proverb, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. So it's about plotting and being diligent and being faithful and good to the customers that are right in front of you, the clients that are right in front of you. And then the sort of twin mindset that would go along with that would be never to expect that you're going to have a perfect client or the perfect process. Focus on progress and creating a flywheel where you're constantly getting better. You just have to roll up your sleeves and be willing to let the process be what it is, knowing that you're going to be making improvements on it.
So talking about the process talk about how the process you have has been kind of informed by the clients.
Yeah. Initially, I didn't turn people away. I just took as much as I possibly could. I just focused on how I could bring value and how I could just take some of my knowledge, skills, abilities to help them in their goals. I focus really on getting work. Okay, so after you're getting work, after you're getting clients, then my focus is on under promise, over deliver. So going above and beyond, and creating a gap, having there sort of be this stretch between what I'm promising to deliver on and then what I actually deliver on. And I think of this in little ways, things like, I went above and beyond in creating a really nice camera setup so that when I hop on Zoom or when I make a Loom video, it looks super professional. The way that I would communicate over email or Slack, I would get back to people right away. I would try to go the extra mile to make sure that I was asking follow-up questions. A lot of it just soft skill type stuff. It's showing up above and beyond in little ways. But then in big ways, like do the extra preparation, create a polished presentation of your work, and taking on this idea that like this is a performance. And depending on how you perform and how you show up, it's going to dramatically affect the experience that your clients have and their enjoyment of their process with you, their relationship with you. And that's going to lead to them wanting to refer you to other people, because not only was the work great, hopefully that should be table stakes, but the experience that they had of working with you was something that they remember, or it somehow had an impact on them. So then that kind of ties into the whole idea of building a relationship, staying connected, and then taking past projects and mining them for insights. So I wanted to follow up with people, stay in touch, and ask follow-up questions about what was most valuable to them about the project and what could have gone better. So I just walked through a lot, but getting work, not turning people away. Then once you got the work, going above and beyond, and then in that goodwill that you create through that, starting to develop a relationship where you can have an honest conversation about what was great, what wasn't. And then over time, I started to build a walkthrough process of the projects that were the most successful. And then that walkthrough project, walking through step by step everything that we did together, that now becomes a sales pitch that I would use for new clients. So anytime I would hop on a call with somebody, I would be asking them questions and prompting them around trying to hear for the same problems that past clients have had, and then pulling up these template archetype projects and then walking through them. Because I know that if I'm out the gate setting their expectation using some of our very best projects in the past, then it's much more likely that the project is going to go smoothly because they have that expectation set from the very beginning. So that's the flywheel effect of, in the beginning, it not necessarily mattering so much about who it is that you're getting, but then as you weed out the best projects and then double down on those, you're ultimately kind of always evolving upward and getting better and better with every project.
So when you've looked at your best work or best clients, what are some common things that you saw that you then started to break, building the flywheel, building the bit?
A lot of it came down to a strong picture of where it was that they were going. There was always something about the status quo and something about the way that their industry did things that frustrated founders. There's always this kind of like villain that exists. And so that's what brought about the workshop process, where we talk about things in those terms, talk about brand archetypes, we talk about storytelling, we talk about characters, we talk about villains and the things that need to be overcome. And all those things are universal themes, first principle thinking that can go on there that really fits into a nice story framework that you can talk about with anyone, and they get a lot of value out of that. The other thing that I'll just say really quickly, I think the reason why that's necessary is because you often have a CEO, a CMO, a CTO, you've got some sort of a C-suite or marketing team. It's usually 4 or 5 people who are all wanting to like collaborate together. And it's extremely difficult to get a group of people to all agree on something unless you can, again, be that mirror and say, okay, here's where we're going. Here's what that looks like. And then you're like an optometrist. Optometrist? Is that the eye doctor?
Sure.
Ophthalmologist. I don't know. You're like a bone doctor.
Yeah.
Is it A or B? What is that?
Ornithologist. I've got somebody who's studying birds. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you're like going to the eye doctor. We'll call it that. And it's, is it A or B? And so, that's the other part, was the fact that you've got a group of people who are all, wanting to pitch in and wanting to have an opinion and be a part of it.
Which brings up a huge part of working with clients. How do you talked a minute ago about setting expectations in the pitch and then in the initial phases of a project. How do you set expectations around your dynamic with the client, and in terms of what you're there to provide and who's in charge and who gets to make decisions? How do you frame that whole aspect in order to have a successful project?
Yeah. A couple of things. One is, I think, being a presence early on and being genuine, being the genuine article with people is really important. I think that that will come through when you meet with people one-on-one and when you hop on Zooms. I also set the expectation up front of what the cadence is going to be. The other thing that happens is you'll reach a point where something always goes wrong. Like, it's like everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And I think that version for this is that you just kind of let it happen, but then you can't let it happen again. Like, fool me once, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't know. I feel like I'm just quoting Michael Scott, who's trying to quote that and gets it all wrong. But yeah, it's like stuff will inevitably come up. And like usually probably do it anyway, like do whatever it is they're asking, because you're like, hey, yeah, for sure. Hey, let's hop on a call. And then also, by the way, we've got to stick to like our core process that we've got here. So it's kind of like being flexible and yet maintaining boundaries. And so don't be flinchy. Don't be, hey, like that's not what we're all about. Or like, don't come after them because they did something that they were like weren't supposed to do. Like they have no idea. So just like try to address it as best you possibly can, and then immediately follow up by setting the expectation that, that's actually not what we're doing.
Yeah. How do you say anything explicitly at the outset in terms of feedback? Like, here's how you should get feedback.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think that at different points you get different kinds of feedback. So it's usually either at the end of a deliverable, we'll have a slide that says, here are questions to prompt your feedback. I need to know X, Y, Z. So you're leading. It's kind of like they're the stand, they're on the witness stand, and you're doing a bit of a cross-examination, and you're wanting to kind of give them, more or less some yes or no answers. And then at other times you want to give them an open question, and you want it to just be like, what did you think? What was your experience going through it? Did you have any realizations? Did you, so, and especially early on, it's always a lot more open-ended and loosey-goosey. And then as the process goes on, you get less and less, like, because people will start to rethink things, and then they'll start to hem and haw. And then, you kind of have to like love them by not letting them get cold feet and then all of a sudden decide to just throw everything out the window, because that can happen. So over time and throughout the course of a project, you end up getting to this point where it's basically like, we are checking things off the list.
Yeah. So what kind of metrics or scoreboard do you try and set up to keep things from veering into pure subjectivity as you're having conversations?
There's kind of like these three hierarchies of high level vision. What's your direction? What's your goal? Why are you having this work done in the first place? And making sure that you have a really clear understanding of why that is. What business goals are they trying to accomplish? Why now? Then you're going to have things in relation to the work. I can't think of any instance where it's not going to ultimately come down to your customer's customer, your client's customers. So users, an audience. And so that's where it is totally subjective. I mean, it just is by definition, unless you're going to be running, user tests and peer reviews. Certainly you can ask around, and I think you can find people who would say they're fitting within that target audience. But I think what you're wanting to do is push against, well, Joe likes it, but Nick doesn't. Let's keep going. And it's like, whoa, wait. They're not the ultimate, decision makers. Our decision needs to be measured against what are our brand values and what do we want to try to convey and to whom. And now we can have more of a conversation where it's not about my personal tastes. It's not about your personal tastes. It's about how effective do we think this design is going to be at accomplishing whatever, X, Y, and Z thing is for your audience. So again, it's still super subjective, but it's going to be far more easier to distance yourself and kind of create this third party, which is their audience, and say, tell me why this design is not as effective at hitting these attributes for these people. And
yeah, that makes a ton of sense that you're taking both you and the client out of the hero position, and you're advocating for, a third party who's really the person that matters.
Yeah, you kind of want to make it as impersonal as possible. And that's definitely difficult to do. I remember early on, I would just be really personally attached to work. And so when clients wouldn't like it, I would be like, I'm offended. You have to like it because I did it and I like it. It's like,
yeah,
that's not productive.
Yeah. All right. So what if we wrap it with some real specific things? What are, like a sales call or at the start of a project, what are 3 things that you hear that would be a big red flag? Either should client or should I really adjust expectations? What are 3 red flags? And then what are 3 things where you hear it and your ears perked up? You think this might be like great.
Yeah. So probably the first, which is pretty easy to overcome, is we want this done yesterday, where they come with some sort of other project that's been done that's amazing. And you're like, wow, that's awesome. And then they're like, and we need this done in like 2 weeks. You're going to have a bit of an uphill battle to climb. And so my strategy with that is to just try to make concessions, negotiate, try to deliver on something that can be done within a couple of weeks, while at the same time pitching and selling the value of going through a more robust process, showing those past projects, showing the proof, saying like, these people did it and it took 3 months, 2 months. It's not a quick turnaround because of the level of depth that you need to go to in order for you to deliver on what it is that you actually want. So take what it is that they are saying is their goal and throw it in their face. The second thing would be that they have already done a lot of the work. Like, they start to hear you talk about that. They're like, yeah, no, for sure. Well, we've already done, this and this. And so we can just like skip over that, because they sort of think that the whole reason why we're doing that is just to somehow make it longer for the sake of making it longer, when in actuality, it's about the insights that they're going to have and the insights that we're going to have together, building that relationship. And so if somebody's trying to piecemeal multiple people, multiple pieces into place, and they start diminishing your value or your worth or your process because they're just sort of like, no, we've already done that. Now, there could be certain clients who are actually legit and who have actually already done that. And, that's perfectly like somebody, for instance, a lot of the Web3 clients, they've worked with like a marketing positioner who really understands the crypto space at a very deep level. Stuff like that is fine. But if it's, they've already got a designer and they're going to be working and they want you to kind of get into this sort of, daily kind of like updates alongside other people, that's just like immediately no. And then the last one that you said, what would be like something that would pique my interest, I think it's the phenomenon that we've talked about that we call brand dissonance. And that is where you are so focused on your product that it practically sells itself. The renewal rate is through the roof. They have great customer testimonials. They have raving fans, and their brand sucks. And they don't even need to know that their brand sucks, because when you come in and you start to like make it amazing, they'll be like, this is amazing. So it's like, I don't even need you to know that it's bad. And I'm not even going to tell you that it's bad, but we're going to take it to such a level that at some point you're going to like look back, you're going to climb this mountain, you're going to turn around, you're going to look back and you're going to like, oh, like we'll look at where we came from. And so I think that's the thing that I'm looking for, is like, if they have been able to garner great success in the face of having a really sucky online digital presence, then that's like, let's go. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, So the dissonance is just between the quality of their product and the quality of their brand.
Right. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
they clearly have a good brand, capital B brand, in the context of the connection and the bond, the impressions and the love that customers have for the business and the product and the value that it creates in their life. But they don't have a very good lowercase b brand identity, website, digital presence, visual language. It's not accurately reflected.
Yeah. Great